So now we are getting into the identification of hazards that are introduced by operational and support activities and procedures. And the purpose of operating and support hazard analysis technique is to identify hazards that are associated with the operation of a system, that are associated with the support of the operation of a system. Also to evaluate the adequacy of mitigation strategies and to assess the risk of operations, as well as identify system safety requirements. The O-SHA technique looks at procedures to make sure that they're safe, as well as functions to make sure that they are safe, and it evaluates those procedures and tasks and functions that are performed by humans. So human performance enters into the equation during this operating and support hazard analysis technique. The technique here starts in the system development phase, evaluating manuals and procedural documentation that's in the draft stage, and it continues through the disposal phase of the system. It can be completed over and over again as the system life cycle develops and as it moves into different phases. It's typically completed or continues along with the operational design hazard analysis type, the O-SHA. And you'll remember the diagram here. We've gone through it several times in our course so far. We are still feeding forward in our flow diagram here. Results from earlier techniques are available as inputs to the operating and support hazard analysis technique. So that leads us to this slide where inputs, we talk about inputs to the operational design hazard analysis type. They come from analysis types that are completed earlier, and the outputs are, notice the outputs go to the requirements design hazard analysis type as design requirements and system safety recommendations, and outputs from this hazard analysis type also go to the system design hazard analysis type in the form of system level hazards and risk concerns. Here's the recommended operating and support hazard analysis worksheet. We'll hit some highlights of this worksheet. So first let's talk about block 2. That's operation. Block 1 is pretty self-explanatory. Block 2 identifies the task, function, or procedure that is under analysis. An example from our Erickson text was on the task of replacing an electrical outlet. So the operation is the title of the procedure or task. A new hazard worksheet then is started for every procedure or task that is analyzed. So a different O-SHA worksheet is started for every procedure or every task that we analyze. Each step in the procedure is listed in the first column called task. Here's how that looks from the electrical outlet replacement in your text. Each step in the process is listed on the O-SHA worksheet under the task column. Now we move to the columns that we have studied previously. Remember that in hazard, the hazard column, all three components of the hazard are not required. By the time each of the three columns, hazard, causes, and effects, are completed, each of the three hazard components will be represented, but be diligent to ensure that the proper component is represented under the proper column. And what that looks like is the hazard source is in the hazard column, the initiating mechanism is in the causes column, and the target, the threat, or the outcome is in the effects column. The rest of the columns in this worksheet have been covered in detail in previous lessons. Next, our presentation addresses, the presentation in your course addresses health hazard analysis, but our next video will cover a pretty neat technique called HAZOP, Hazard and Operability Analysis, and that can support the search for operational concerns in a system.